What if I told you that the key for Illini basketball to reach the Final Four might be a guy you're not even thinking of?
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My name is Sonny Brummer, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day of the beloved. The only thing I ask for in return is if you can make sure you hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, especially as we get closer and closer to football season, which is starting just a couple weeks away. It's really going to help the channel grow and help with the algorithms and all that kind of fun stuff. But we're not talking football today, or at least not right away. First off, I wanted to, I put together this episode kind of last minute because I was talking back and forth with a couple of Illini fans, and someone had sent me this tweet from my friend Joe Jackson of Feed the Post YouTube show. By the way, if you don't subscribe to that channel, please do. Joe Jackson's one of the smartest people you're going to find when it comes to the X's and O's of college basketball and just the basketball game in general. His claim was, his exact tweet was, currently workshopping a David Mirkovic will be the Illinois' third best player thought. Now, those of you that joined me on Tuesday's episode, you saw me and Cody kind of discuss what we're going to do with that power forward spot in the third segment. And, we brought up David, we brought up Ben Hummerkaus, we brought up even Big Z. But I will say that, again, Joe's a very smart guy. And after trading a couple DMs with him, basically he said the inspiration of that tweet was that he really liked what he saw on film. So it's not that he's necessarily standing by it, but it's a thought that he thinks could possibly happen. And so for a second, I wanted to entertain the idea that let's just say that did in fact happen, that David was the third best player, let's just assume behind Tomislav and Andrei Stojakovic, the Illinois' third best player. What would that mean? So let's talk about David just in general first, for those of you who are not too familiar with his game. He's 6'9", 255 pound forward from Montenegro. He's not a raw guy. He's pretty polished. He looks physically mature, and he's already competed at one of the toughest pro leagues in Europe. Over 50 career games at the SC Derby, he averaged 7.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game. And last year, he bumped that up to 8.6 and 6.4. Now, keep in mind, those numbers are actually even better than Tomislav Ivicic, who played at the same team just a couple of years prior. At the ABA Under-19 Championship, David went full video game numbers, 23 points, 14 rebounds, 4.5 assists, while shooting 42.9% from three. On the international stage, he's been a star for Montenegro's youth teams and even made his senior national team debut in the 2024 Eurobasket qualifiers. Bottom line is he's been battle tested against grown men and against the best young talent in the world. Let's talk about David and his role on this team, because he's not coming in just to sit on the bench. I think potentially he could fit a clear need. He's a traditional power forward by build, but with some modern wrinkles to his game. He's got a very strong post presence, elite rebounding instincts, and just enough touch from the outside to keep defenses honest. With the Ivicic twins, Tommy and Big Z, already bringing length and perimeter skill, David's physicality is the perfect complement. Brad's staff has already said that they love his toughness, his ability to defend the paint, and his willingness to do the dirty work, set hard screens, crash the glass, and body up against Big Ten bruisers. And I think if you take a look at this roster, that's exactly what Illinois missed last year during stretches and what they are going to sorely need this year. Now, here's where it kind of gets fun. Let's say that tweet is correct. Let's say Joe is correct in saying that David ends up being the third best player on the roster. What does that mean? That means what I consider the biggest question mark on this basketball team. the starting power forward spot gets solved instantly. Illinois has 3 legitimate starting caliber bigs who can all score, rebound, and protect the rim. But again, as I entertained with Cody yesterday on Tuesday's episode, I don't like the idea of Big T and Big Z on the floor together. Space that out. Give me 40 minutes of Ivica twins not playing together. I just think that can be exploited, especially on the defensive side. When it comes to Ben Humrickhouse, I like Ben. I really do like Ben. But you know what? Put him in the role that I think he was meant for in the Big Ten Conference. Give him 15 minutes of pressure-free ball. And you know what? Some games he might go off. And those games, let him play 20 minutes, 25 minutes, make 4 or 5 3-pointers, which I do think he's capable of doing. But when it comes to absolute fit, I don't know if Ben Humrickhouse is a starting level power forward for a team that wants to make it back to the Final Four. Again, this is where we bring in a guy like David Mirkovic. Having all these guys all of a sudden gives Brad Underwood a luxury to rotate fresh, skilled front court players, potentially without a drop-off. And that's how you're going to survive the Big Ten grind and win games in March, especially against elite size that you know Purdue's going to bring, Michigan State's going to bring. And if David does end up being a top 3 player, that also means that Illinois' worst starter is still very good. Again, you're talking about Boswell, Petrovic, Stojakovic, maybe Mirkovic, and Tomislav Ivicic. That's the type of depth that a team can go from very good to national title contender. Again, I've been saying, in my opinion, all off season long, and I'll be talking about it more as the season gets closer. I think the power forward position is a swing spot for Illinois. If you get just solid play there, I think Illinois is a top 15 team. But if you get an impact player there, that's the difference between losing in the second round to possibly cutting down the nets in April. Think about the recent champions. There's always that big, versatile forward who can punish mismatches and control the glass. I think if Mirkovic can be that guy from day one, maybe not even day one, maybe month 2, once he gets acclimated to the game here, then suddenly you've got size advantages at almost every position, almost every night, and also the ability to win ugly, grind it out Big Ten games. Illinois could itself be a team built for tournament matchups where physicality is going to matter. Of course, it's not automatic. David still needs to adjust to the speed and athleticism of the Big Ten Conference. You know, Morez Johnson Jr. was much more highly heralded coming in last year, and he even struggled with that whistle. But as long as David can keep refining that outside shot, he only shot 27% from deep in the pros, and obviously that's not enough. Well, then maybe he has a chance to stick to the floor. Also, Dave's going to have to work on his defense, and I think that's going to be the big calling card, and I'm going to focus on this in a future episode. The Illini defense right now looks a little problematic to me, and so it's something that we're going to have to look into what kind of pieces might fit together to work, because David, for the most part, at his size, he's going to have to be able to cover smaller, quicker fours. But the good news is that he's not just some 18-year-old freshman coming from high school. This is an 18-year-old who's practically a grown man when it comes to experience. He's used to living in hotels. He's used to traveling across Europe, and he's used to playing in hostile crowds. He is ready for that sort of grind. So here's my takeaway. If David Mirkovic really is the Illini's 3rd best player on the team next year, I think Illinois at that point has every ingredient to win the Big Ten. And more importantly, I think now you're talking about a dark horse for the Final Four. They'd have the size, they have the depth, the skill, and a bruising European front court flavor that teams hate to play against. If it all comes down to how fast he acclimates and how much of his international production translates to Champaign, then that's just on him. Let's just see how quickly he can get acclimated working with Fletch. You know, he just got here less than a week ago. But for now, all I'm saying is, Illini fans, close your eyes and be excited, because the front court, which I consider a question mark right now, might just be the best it's been in a very long time. Let me know your guys' thoughts on David Mirkovic and Joe Jackson's tweet. Is there any potential chance that Dave, maybe not top 3, but could he be a top 5 player on this basketball team next year? And if he does, what does that mean? Most people can't name their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever needing to touch a spreadsheet. Monarch makes it simple to review my finances with my wife, and we can both set budgets, set goals, and find out where the spending activity in the house all goes all in one place. Don't let the financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, folks, welcome back. JR from the Big Ten Huddle is back. Well, not literally here, but he's here in spirit because he wrote an article recently for the Writing Illini that's kind of been bothering me a little bit. Obviously, it's bothering him, and it's probably should bother every single Illinois fan that's paying attention this summer. And that's the national media, specifically ESPN, straight up disrespecting the Illini heading into the 2025 season. We're in what JR calls the list season, that magical time of the year when ESPN pumps out list after list, ranking after ranking, preview after preview. And if you've been reading them, you've probably noticed something. Illinois is barely there, if at all. We're talking about a team that returned 16 of 22 starters from a 10-win season, the 4th most returning production in the country. And somehow, ESPN treats them like they're the middle of the pack team in the Big Ten Conference. So next up, I'm going to kind of break down how ESPN's coverage has shown bias against Illinois and why JR mentioned that he thinks that they're dead wrong. So let's start with the big one. This article came out, I believe, last week. Heather Dinich wrote this article breaking down 32 teams ESPN analytics say have at least a 10% chance to make the college football playoff. You're probably wondering now, where's Illinois? Illinois has a chance to make a college football playoff, certainly 10%. Well, not only were they left off the list entirely, Illinois was given less than a 4% chance. Less than 4% chance to make a college football playoff. By the way, Big Ten media itself has Illinois as the number 4 team in the Big Ten Conference. And a simple reminder, they're not playing Michigan. They're not playing Penn State. They're not playing Oregon this year. Meanwhile, Nebraska, who's barely made a bowl game last year, has 3 times the chance according to their numbers. USC, who's been underperforming for years, has 5 times the chance that Illinois does. This isn't just a small oversight. It's a fundamental disconnect between what the coaches and media inside the Big Ten see and what ESPN computers are spitting out. And then there's the Bill Connolly article on the 40 most important players in college football. You want to venture a guess how many Illini players are on that list? I'll give you a second. 0. You're telling me in a sport with over 130 football teams, he couldn't find room for 1 Illini player, but somehow 8 SEC quarterbacks made the cut? It's not just about numbers. It's about who they chose. Marcel Reed from Texas A&M. Austin Simmons from Ole Miss. Fine players, sure, but no Luke Altmaier? No Gabe Yakis? Altmaier is the leader of this offense and the guy with the keys to potentially take Illinois to the playoff. Jackus is one of the most disruptive defenders in the Big Ten, capable of wrecking a game plan simply by himself. And if you're telling me Alex Orji is more important than both of those players, that's not analysis. That's brand bias. And now for another head scratcher. ESPN Football Power Index says Illinois' strength of schedule ranks right alongside San Jose State, Charlotte, and UTEP. Let's pause there for a second. If you know anything about the Big Ten schedule, that number feels impossible. Illinois plays an FCS opponent, a respectable MAC opponent, and a top 6 team in the ACC in non-conference play. Then you throw in 5 road games, 2 playoff teams from last year, Washington on the road and one of the toughest places to play in the country, a game I'm very nervous about. Oh, and by the way, the national champion favorite, according to ESPN Bet. Meanwhile, Missouri, ranked 20 spots higher in strength of schedule, plays an FCS team, a low-tier G5 team, and Kansas. 0 playoff teams from last year and only 4 road games, all against bottom-half SEC teams. But somehow, their schedule is considered tougher? There's no logic behind that. That's just the formula gymnastics. Now, here's the thing where bias isn't always just a conspiracy. It's not like ESPN has a secret meeting where they say, okay, who are we going to disrespect this year? But the way these rankings are built, what they choose to prioritize, what they devalue, absolutely shapes the national perception. And perception matters. If ESPN keeps telling the country Illinois isn't important, that Illinois isn't talented, that they don't have any big games, that's going to affect preseason hype. That's going to affect how much ground you have to make up when you actually do have to win games. This isn't just about making fans feel good. It's about the fact that the system is doing what it can to undervalue what Illinois actually brings to the table. So ultimately, again, I thought this was a fantastic article. I'll leave it in the description because I think JR's conclusion is dead on. If you want ESPN to respect Illinois, you can't talk your way into it. You have to prove them wrong. You have to prove their analytics wrong. You have to prove that algorithm wrong, that model wrong. You have to prove their coverage wrong. Go out, win those tough road games, take down one of the big boys, and make it impossible for the worldwide leader to ignore you. Because at the end of the day, the most dangerous team in college football is one that's talented, well-coached, and has a chip on its shoulder. And right now, that describes Illinois. So, final thought, ESPN can keep pumping up the same handful of brands as they always do. They can keep building their lists around the SEC and whatever else they find trendy and clickbaity at the moment. But the Big Ten is no longer just Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State anymore. And if Illinois delivers the way I think they're capable of this season, it's going to be really funny watching ESPN scrambled to explain why they never saw it coming. JR from the Big Ten Huddle, thank you for the inspiration for this article. And Illinois fans, strap in, because this might be one of the more disrespected 10-win teams in the country heading to 2025. Quite honestly, this is why I struggle with preseason polls as it is. I understand why they're made. They're made to generate excitement amongst fans, generate conversation amongst national media outlets, and of course, generate clicks for media outlets. And they're going to want to watch, or want you to watch them discuss what these rankings could mean about teams that haven't played yet. But the unscientific method that these preseason polls, and look, this is me talking as an Illini fan who is debuting at number 12. 12 is pretty darn high, as I discussed in the episode yesterday. But even then, you know, teams that the year before, Illinois wasn't ranked. So those teams have to overcome so much more when it comes to the final college football playoff rankings, because the goal is to make it to the top 12. You know how you get to the top 12? Being close to 12 as possible. And so when ESPN continues to just throw out this bias, saying, the SEC's still the most powerful conference in the world, and then belittling what the Big Ten's accomplishments have been over the last couple of years. And let's be honest, the Big Ten Conference is shutting ESPN for the most part. We had Paul Feinbaum talk about he's going to leave the country if another Big Ten team wins the national title this year. I mean, can't we all just unite around that? The fact that we won't have to see Paul Feinbaum on our TVs anymore if the Big Ten can come through one more time. But ultimately, this is a system now, right? Like this, unfortunately, this is one of those factors where ESPN wants to make its money, and because it wants to make its money, it needs to highlight their own personal properties. And the only way that Big Ten teams like Illinois can overcome that is to simply by showing it on the field. Look, they're not at the same ground as the teams in the SEC are. The teams from the SEC are already with a slight head start. But in time, the more the Big Ten continues to show the results in the playoffs and maybe wins more national championships, the ESPNs of the world are going to have no choice but change that algorithm around. I did have some fun notes for you before I let you go. It was announced about Tuesday afternoon that 133-pound national champion Lucas Bird and four-time NCAA championships qualifier Luke Luffman each announced that they will return to the Fighting Illini wrestling team for their final seasons of eligibility next year. Bird wrestled in 24 matches last season, carrying a 23-1 record en route to winning both the NCAA and Big Ten titles, the program's 25th national title and 79th Big Ten title. His 95.8% win rate would be the seventh best single season win percentage in program history, but there's a 25 match minimum required to be on that list. So big news. We want to cover all sports here at Locked On Illini. So this is about as big as it can get from, I guess, what you call those non-revenue sports. Congratulations to Lucas Bird, Luke Luffman. Hopefully another year of success in representing the Fighting Illini. Also, Brian Randle is back in Phoenix. He's going to be on the coaching staff there. I believe he was on the staff there from 2020 to 2023. Last year, he spent the season with the Washington Wizards, but the Phoenix Suns announced again on Tuesday afternoon that Brian is going to be back in Phoenix last year. Brian was always one of my favorite players to watch in yesteryears, and so it's nice to see him get that success as an assistant coach. I quite honestly, I think Brian is one of those where I don't know if he's interested in coaching college basketball, but he's a name that you're just going to have to pay attention to because he's been an assistant coach for a while. If it's only pros that he's interested in, then I'm sure he's going to get his opportunity very soon. But he's built enough of a track record now that if he wants to dabble in college basketball, he could probably get a role as the head coach of a smaller program essentially right away. And, of course, if he were to succeed, have a couple good seasons, you know how excited Illini fans would be to maybe one day when Brad Underwood is finally ready to go home and retire, bringing in a potential former Illini back into the fold and lead the Fighting Illini at post-Brad Underwood era. I know I'm not going to make any Tyler Underwood jokes, so who knows, right? We have a lot of good candidates, it seems like. You have Roger Powell Jr., and you have, Brian Randle. Illinois is continuing to churn out some high-quality assistant coaches. Who knows? Chester Frazier. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's just another example of the high quality of assistants that Illinois does continue to produce. That's a good question. As I let you go, let me know in the comment section. Which maybe current assistant coach who's probably coaching elsewhere, or maybe one that's coaching on this team right now, would you like to see as maybe a future head coach for the Illini? Again, let's pretend Brad Underwood has a long career with Illinois, a successful career where we hopefully can win a national championship. But when he's ready to hang it up, again, you're talking about Roger Powell Jr., Brian Randle, Chester Frazier. There's other names that I'm sure I'm just not thinking of right now. Which guy would you like to have come back to Champaign and possibly lead the Illini during a stretch post Brad Underwood? If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button on this particular video. And of course, look, there's a conversation going on all day, every day. Right now in our Discord, we're talking Alex Kapka-Jones and what kind of impact he might have in the wide receiver room. Is he not getting enough credit by the fans and the media? Is he possibly one of Bret Bielema's secret weapons? That's the type of conversation going on right now in the Talk Illini Discord. The Discord link is in the description, so it should be an easy click. Again, everything is absolutely free. We had so much success with my first mailbag episode that I'm going to run another one in about 2 weeks. So if you can, send me a message on your favorite social media. Do Locked On Illini or Talk Illini or at TheSunnyV, or leave a question that you might want answered in the comment section here. Or if you are listening via audio, do me a favor. Even if you don't mind doing this, regardless whether you have a question or not, leave me a 5-star review. Again, it's really going to help this channel grow, especially as we come into the season. But if you do have a question and you listen to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever it might be, leave a 5-star review and leave whatever question you might have, and I will leave it for the next mailbag episode, which I think I'm going to do in about a week and a half or so, right around when the football season is going to begin, because I'm sure the questions are going to really be ready to go by then. Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan of the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to wrap it up for today. Again, I got a lot more content for you this week. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you've liked this video. Make sure you're in the Discord. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.